Yeah, let's start the interview. What was the idea behind it? What made you want to make it?
Yeah, it's a funny story. So I'd been working in game jams for a while just to learn how to make video games, about 6 months before TetherGeist ever existed. And it was GMTK 2021 Game Jam. The theme was joined together at the time. And I remember, we had 48 hours. So that morning I woke up and just kind of brainstormed stuff for literally 2 hours. So TetherGeist was born out of a 2 hour brainstorming session. The idea that we ultimately came up with was, you'd have a ghost that you could split from your body, and then wherever that goes is joined with you, and you can rejoin with wherever the spirit ends up, right? That was the initial mechanic. It was just built around the theme joined together. And then over 48 hours, I built TetherGeist. And that jam was kind of nuts. The original one, right?
Mm.
The original TetherGeist. Nowhere near what it is today. And since it was a big jam. The GMTK jam is, the biggest one in the world. I wanted to do it right rather than just solo dev it. So I had a friend from work that was into video game development. I kind of brought him along. I have another friend that I met through my wife, actually, who's an artist. I was like, let's have her do some of the art in it because I'm not like very good at making things look good. And she's married to an artist, so he looped in her husband. This is Ray and Noah. If you ever watch any of our devlogs and stuff, they're the artists behind it. And then I got in contact with a musician from Australia named Rusty, and he did the music for the original version. And so that was like our original team. And we had 2 days, and I didn't get any sleep. I think I got like 3 hours of sleep that night. And we put it on the GMTK Jam. There were over 6,000 games in the jam, and we got 19th in the popular vote, which was just like mind melt. Eventually, it's funny, it's 10th now. So I don't know if people like deleted their games on the itch.io page for it, but TetherGeist got 10th in the popular vote. So it was exciting to see like Mark Brown from GMTK played TetherGeist. He didn't put it in his like top 20 list, but he played it, he showcased it like for like half a second on his channel, and we were like, okay, this idea is great, right? Like we got to pursue this. So that's the origin story behind it, right? Like we learned pretty quickly from working in those 48 hours that we worked really well together. We refined the team down. Now it's just me, Noah, and Ray. My other developer buddy ended up dropping off, and I've always wanted to do the music for TetherGeist. So Rusty was super cool about saying, hey, that I totally get it. Like have fun. And yeah, that's it. That's where it came from. So from there it evolves, right? We've been working on it for like 3 years now because there's a lot more you can do if you're not only building a game in 48 hours.
Yeah, music dev, what the music producer, game dev. It's like you're doing the whole thing. I
That's
guess
the
that
hope.
must be quite daunting to kind of, well, not daunting, but it must be a lot of work to think, right, I've done this section of X level, and now I've got to
Yeah.
pick music or make music that fits that level thematically, and
Hmm.
also isn't so repetitive that the player's just like, oh, I've died like 14 times. I'm hearing the same track over and over again. Is it easy, would you say, to kind of come up with the music, especially if you're now doing it on your own since the other person left? Would you say that it's been a roller coaster or it's been pretty smooth sailing?
All of that, I
Yeah.
think. So I before I ever got into game development, I was into music. I had a band in college,
What was it
and
called?
it was called Brass Rook. So
Nice.
if you ever want to look it up, the lyrics are about the fantasy fiction novels by Brandon Sanderson. So if you're ever listening to them and wonder, oh, was Jordan really struggling? No, they were fictional characters that the lyrics were about. But yeah, so music was always like something I really cared about. But it is daunting if you look at the game as a whole and try to like digest it all and say, I'm going to make this is the scope, and I'm going to try to make this in a short amount of time. It's completely overwhelming. But if you take it in little bite-sized chunks along the way, it's a lot more doable. So for TetherGeist, there are going to be 8 chapters in the game. And rather than like try to write the music for everything, it's like, okay, I'm only focused on chapter one right now. And within that, I'm only focused on this specific area of the
Mm.
chapter. And so, um, as far as like being daunting goes, if I cut it out into little sizes like that, it's a lot more doable. And I found with music, it's like my least organized part of the process. With development, I've got all these timelines and sprint planning and all that sort of stuff. But with music, it's like it's Sunday night. I've got nothing else to do. I'm gonna sit down and just kind of fiddle around with instrumentation and see if anything sticks. So I've written, gosh, like 30 songs for TetherGeist, and only 6 of them are currently going
Wow.
to be in the game. The rest are just kind of ideas floating around in my, you know, hard drive.
You
Anyway,
might find out that one of them's going to be like the track that cement your game forever. It's in the works. It's in the
It's
works.
somewhere, right? Yeah. I'm currently writing for chapter 2, and I've only found 2 songs that stuck. The rest are like clunky. So
Well, I mean, because at the moment you're in a playtest stage at the moment, right?
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So you've got the game up on Steam. People can test it out and kind of
Mhm.
see how it all plays, which is fantastic. So well done. I
It's a
just
big
don't
step, right? Just getting it there. You can do
honestly.
it.
The thought of game development for me is just too daunting. I'd rather just make content about people who make it instead. Um, so how's the reception been from obviously your YouTube channel as well, and you've got a Discord? How
Mm.
has the fan response been? Because I've seen so many comments of people being like, "I need this now. I need to
Yeah.
play this." Like, how's it been for you?
It's been amazing. It's funny because I can look at people like Thomas Brush and be like, oh, he's got, 300,000 people tuned into every word he says, and we're just a little channel, right? But at the same time, I can look at the actual number of, like, we have 10,000 subscribers right now. I never would have guessed that many people would have been like that jazzed about what we're working on. So it's been really humbling for us because
Mm.
there's no. I mean, when I set out to start making video games, it was mostly just kind of for fun. I mean, everybody starts out with like these big dreams. Oh, I'm going to make the next Hollow Knight. I'm going to, I had that thought, but having a band gave me a heavy dose of realism where it's like, look, nobody's coming to my concerts, nobody's listening to my music. I was just kind of expecting that coming into this initially. Like, yeah, maybe our first devlog will get like 200 or 300 views. That'd be amazing. And it got up to, I think it's what, like 50,000 currently, that first devlog, and we have another one that got up to like it's nearly 80,000 now, and it's just been so like baffling to me that this many people are this excited about it. And then when they go to play it, it's been pretty rewarding because I've approached the game design from a very like user experience standpoint. That's what my career is in, is user experience design. And so it's been rewarding and validating to see that all of the little details that we're putting into this game to like really refine it down is paying off in the player experience, and that people are having the experience we're trying to design.
Mm.
So that's been a really good experience to see that too.
And I think like with the response to TetherGeist, it probably has something to do with the fact that not a lot of games coming out these days are games that people really want to play. They're always just
Hmm,
so huge, and like the majority of titles that are brought to the face of gamers are these massive AAA games that are either
sure.
sequels or maybe something new coming from a bigger developer. And I know for me personally, I'm coming out of that now, and I'm wanting to play more indie
Yeah.
stuff. I'm currently just about making my way through the last stage of Tears of the Kingdom, and
Okay.
then I'm going to move on to Cuphead and then Celeste. So I'm working my way kind
Yeah.
of
Oh,
backwards,
that's good.
which is it's nice because I've been playing AAA games for so long that I'm just
Yeah.
kind of like done with it. I need something fresh.
It's interesting you say that. I think there's a movement towards indie.
Mm,
I think it's getting stronger and stronger because AAA is starting to disillusion people. They get so focused on in-game transactions, and it feels like a lot of the games are almost designed money first, player second. And when you get indie developers, their thought process is usually player first,
mm.
money second. Because like you wouldn't make a pixel game if you're trying to show something flashy. Anyway, sorry, I derailed you, but
No, yeah, yeah. It's just like
yeah.
with AAA games, it's like it's broken, but we'll fix it later. But with but with with indie games, it's like I'm gonna wait till it's done and then I'm
Yeah,
gonna release it, because especially for a game like TetherGeist, the movement is like it's one of its defining things. Because if that didn't
right.
work, then people would probably click off straight away. But with that
They
ghost
do.
system that you with,
We've
with
seen
the
it.
um, with the Geist, is it a Geist or is it a ghost?
Yeah, I mean, we call it the soul, but
Okay.
it's a play on words, really. TetherGeist is like poltergeist.
When you were kind of coming up with the mechanic, was there any like inspiration behind it, like from somewhere else, or was it literally just like a brand new idea? Because I can't think of any other game that does that.
Like the split rejoin.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, I mean, we get compared to Celeste all the time, um,
I think that's just
for
art
good or for
style.
worse.
Like it's just a
What's
pixel art style, so people just
this?
make it.
Yeah, and I mean, you could definitely put it in the genre of a Celeste like. Because it is a tough as nails platform. It's not meant to, like you said, 14 deaths, and I kind of chuckled inside. Usually people die over like 60 to 100 times to complete chapter one, but it's designed to like give you that reward where it's like, oh, I know I can beat this, and it's forgiving. The checkpoints are frequent, right? So there's some similarities that I think are fair. And if you really think about it, like in Celeste, Madeline, she has a dash that's like 45-degree increments, right? We kind of took that and remixed it in the whole split rejoin because ultimately you have a 360-degree option here, but you get to decide the timing by where the ghost goes. But once you rejoin, it looks very similar to that dash in Celeste, right? It's like, okay, boom, so anyway, I'm off topic. As far as inspiration goes, we felt it was very original. It wasn't intentionally supposed to look like the dash. We thought joined together. Originally, we were considering doing almost like a Portal 2 thing where you have like two players to control. You have the ghost and the person, and they have to work together on varying sides of the puzzle to rejoin with each other, just like the co-op play, I guess, is in Portal 2. But I don't know.
Sounds like a good like bonus stage between stages.
Right, maybe. Yeah. I'll tell you though, what else really inspired me for it is exploring the psychology of disability, physical disability specifically. So I've got a daughter who has spina bifida, and I'll give you a short example what that is. It's the spine doesn't develop correctly when they're born, and they end up being paralyzed from the waist down. That's kind of the simple version of it. My daughter is able to walk, so she's got some really cool stories on how she's overcoming things. She's like 4 years old, by the way. She's super young. But spina bifida, this whole idea of like a motor disability and the kind of like emotions you feel looking around you, seeing people move in ways that you can't necessarily move. That was a theme we wanted to explore from the beginning with this game. And so it's ironic, right? Because the game is all about movement, and the main character can move significantly better than any human being could ever do, right? She can like practically fly, but she's tethered. She's tied to how far her spirit can go. Like her culture, her society, they can fly as far as they want. She can't do that. And so we're trying to explore these thoughts and emotions of like, well, this is kind of all you've ever known in your life. But what does that mean as far as how you interact with your peers, as far as how you see the world, as far as how you want to be treated? We're trying to give that kind of mindset a voice in a really sort of subtle way. So we're not trying to like shove it down people's throats either. We want it to be a theme that people can kind of pick up on and interpret it for themselves and kind of experience for themselves. So that would be another part of the inspiration behind the Geist, I guess, is like we want to give her a power, but we want it to feel limited socially with what she's seeing around her. Anyway, so I was long-winded, but that's kind of where it came from.
I never would have known. I'm kind of speechless.
Oh no, you're well, and it's like I said, we're not trying to slap people in the face with it. Only people who would go as far as to watch an interview are going to find out about that, I think.
But... It's a first.
Anyway.
No, honestly, thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm sure your fans will love to kind of know the backstory behind it. With the game being developed for 3 years, is it still 3 years, or are we approaching 4?
Yeah, 2021 Game Jam. It was July. It goes into 2022, 2023, 2024. Yeah, 3.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
I just wanted to double check. Has there been any major kind of setback with the production of the game? Obviously, you're a smaller team of people, so you're not going to get a game kind of shoved out the door in 1 year, especially to a game with such an experimental mechanic. Would you say that you've had any setbacks, or has it kind of been pretty smooth sailing?
There have been setbacks. I think inherent in the question is 3 years, man. Like, why are you still working on it? How long? And setback might be the wrong term. I think a lot of people fall into this boat where game development is a hobby, and that's where we have started. We made it for the Game Jam. It did really well in the Game Jam. We were super jazzed about it. I want to say within the next month or two, I took that Jam version and like made more levels and released like a post-Jam version. And then after that, the excitement really like died down, right? Like 3 months after the fact, nobody's really talking about GMTK 2021 anymore. I've got my day job, I've got my family, I've got all these other things. And so it's almost a setback, but what it turned into was I'll work on TetherGeist maybe 5 hours a week. And that was kind of it for about a year, maybe longer than that. I don't really know. I can say that when we started our YouTube channel we're coming close to the year mark. When we started the devlog series and we saw so many people watch that, there was like this external crowd cheering for us, and that really lit a fire under it. And I've been putting in closer to like 15 to 20 hours a week on TetherGeist ever since that devlog a year ago.
Mm.
So that's why it's taken 3 years, right? The first chapter almost of our development process was super hobbyist, like hardly any hours a week on it. And now we're really picking up speed and hoping to have it finished by sometime next year.
I look forward to it.
Yeah.
So
Hopefully, yeah, we don't ruin it
I
for you.
believe in you. I believe
Hopefully
in you.
deliver.
So Jordan, you're a game developer by night. What do you do by day?
User experience design. Yeah.
Nice.
So I work for
Like I know what that is.
What's that you said? Right, there's a bunch of fancy words. We just the way I like to describe user experience is we are the gap between the really techie programmers and the user that's going to have to deal with the software they make. So there's a blend of psychology in there, there's a blend of research, and the thing that most people associate UX with is the actual design of the interface. So I design websites, right? And ultimately I'll put the website in front of somebody and say, all right, pretend you're a customer for this company. How would you go about logging in and paying your bill, right? And they'll go around and click stuff. And if it doesn't make sense to them, I'm taking notes on that. I'm redesigning the interface so that it's intuitive and it makes sense to the user. So that's what I do by day. And then of course, I've got my 2 kids and my wife and my dogs. So I've got a whole household of people. The third job. Yeah.
With the game, what would you say your favorite part of it is, apart from the Geist? I'm going to take the Geist, the ghoul, away from you.
Okay.
I presume that's probably your favorite kind of mechanic. But is there any other particular part of the game that you just like absolutely love?
Are you talking like the gameplay or the process of making
the gameplay?
The gameplay. This might be a cheating answer, but the ghost is operates the way it does only that way in the chapter 1 mechanics. Every mechanic explores this split and rejoin in a different way. So that's what I'm most excited about, what I enjoy the most playing. So we are currently wireframing and playing chapter 2, and the mechanic is completely different. It's like a hookshot mechanic, right? Where if you're in the range of the object, you'll exhaust one of your nectar things to fly in that direction, and it launches you past it. So there's kind of like this almost web slinging momentum to chapter 2, and we're blending that with the Geist, right? Like, so you're still going to be splitting and rejoining and then going for the hooks and all that. So the whole idea of like exploring these movement systems and the satisfaction of like, oh, I just completed this really difficult obstacle by sort of web slinging my way through and tactfully and technically getting the Geist where it's supposed to go and stuff. There's just like that element of satisfaction when you get the right combination of movements. So maybe a long-winded answer, but I'd say combination of movements. It's my favorite thing. Yeah.
And I know that, movement is probably one of the fundamental parts of any game that you can find. I mean, I really love Death Stranding, but that's pretty much just a walking simulator. So
it's value in those.
Yeah. No, loved it. That was like my lockdown game. And I know that, it's not just 2D platformer. You've also got a story as well. Are you co-writing the story? Are you writing it yourself? And kind of what's the aim for the split between story and gameplay?
Yes, I'm glad you touched on story, because that's a huge theme. And that's part of what makes us a Celeste-like as well, is we want to tell a story that digs into human emotion and the way the human condition affects us all. I am not writing the story. Noah and Ray are writing the story. So I came to them with this idea of like, hey, I want to explore themes of disability, and they have taken that and like run with it 100-fold. And they're storytellers by trade. So they're the artists behind it, right? And it's not that they're just doing the pixel art. They're actually kind of exploring like, what are the personality traits? How would this person react and think in these moments? And that's being baked into the way they're animating facial expressions and the way that they're animating body language and stuff into the game. So they're the ones writing the story. And then what they'll often do is they'll come to me with like, here's all of the dialogue that we've written, give it a once over and tell us what you think. And if I say, oh, I don't like this, or I do like that, they'll say, hey, your opinion is respected. We're still going to do it our way. And maybe they'll, we'll collaborate on it for sure, but they're the ones who get the last say, right? And it's worked really well that way because, I mean, I went to school for information systems and data analytics, and they went to school for like storyboarding and artistry. That's kind of how the games are. And the story's fully written as far as point A all the way to point Z, and the alternate endings that we're going to have. That's all written. So at the end of the day, though, the very fine details of like who says what at which points and what the scene's going to look like, that's something we're still cooking. But yeah.
Was it made aware before this interview that there was going to be multiple endings?
No, this is
there we go. It's the first, guys. You heard it here first.
Heard it here first. I might have DM'd somebody on Discord at once, but there is a true ending, and nobody's gonna get it the first time. They're gonna have to work for the true ending.
Oh, is it gonna?
So.
See, I don't want to ask, and then it's like it's right.
You don't want to spoil
and then
anything.
we've got to cut it out. It's gonna be something like you have to complete the game. No deaths.
It's not that rigorous. Not that rigorous.
I was gonna say that would have been a. If 14 was like a really low ball, and it's like in the hundreds, someone's gonna be grinding away on Twitch for hours and hours.
They already are.
Yeah.
With the demo, we got a speedrun community, and one guy's put over 80 hours in.
Wow.
To TetherGeist, and it's like we only have 30 minutes of gameplay right now. So.
Do you ever like dip into the streams and kind of like say hello, or are you just kind of like a spectator, just seeing what they're doing?
Usually just a spectator. I've done it a couple times. Dipped in. But it's a pretty tight-knit community. I mean, the folks speedrunning it, they know who I am. We chat all the time on Discord. So.
Have they ever like broken the game? Have they found out like bits where you're like, oh, that's not meant to be there?
All the time. Yeah. We have to tell people this is an alpha build. This is not even in beta yet. So well, we have a whole thread in Discord of bugs, and speedrunners find the most. They find the most bugs, and sometimes they'll exploit them. We've had one bug they found: if you split the ghost into a cutscene trigger and rejoin into the trigger, it just launches the player all the way to the end of the screen. We had to fix that bug like right away.
What, like bypass the whole level?
Correct.
Or, yeah.
You're like, there you go. Don't talk to mom.
Is so persistent. I've been kind of like going through in my speedrun kind of era on YouTube at the moment, and just like seeing all these people speedrun. And I was watching this one of Ratchet and Clank 3, and it was like you suck up a barrel and then you smash it and then you get launched all the way across the map. And it's like, how does someone figure this out?
It's a different type of brain.
They're a different breed, man. They're a different breed.
It's great. I love having them because they're like the best quality testers you could ask for, right? They're gonna.
Yeah.
It's like a game of cat and mouse, just trying to get the developer, keep him on his toes. It's been fun. But.
Yeah, I suppose it's nice to have, like, in a way, they're just free play testers.
Yeah, and in payment in return, I'm hopefully giving them a fun experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say that there's anything kind of in TetherGeist that you put in to the game and it just didn't work and you had to just get rid of it? Or has it been, pretty consistent all the way through with you've added it and it's worked?
No, yeah, we've definitely had ideas that we've had to trash. Some of the most common ones are in the way we've played cutscenes. Like there's just a lot of like awkward positioning, or like the text didn't make sense, and so we've had to like rip out and completely rewrite dialogue. Mechanically, there's been a lot of stuff too. It's been a while since I've looked at this because we've had a pretty consistent roadmap for the last year, but those first couple of years, I have so many ideas in this game that are just terrible. They just did not work. There was a fireball mechanic that we fixed it. It used to be terrible. We fixed it. Now it's pretty fun. We had a mechanic where when she rejoins with her spirit, it launches her in this fireball state that can then like ricochet off of things and like break down walls and that sort of stuff. And that thing got really buggy for a while. You get trapped in the wall and it would just like kill you immediately. Chapter 2, this is a fun one. So this hookshot mechanic that I'm telling you about, we originally built it over a year ago. Kind of getting ahead of myself when I was making it. And we kept it hidden in wireframe mode outside of what the average gamer could access. But it was still in the overall game file. We had somebody on our Discord server find a way to reverse engineer our game. So we make it in Game Maker Studio. And he was like, oh, I found this tool that I can use to totally dismantle your Game Maker game, and I can see everything now. Which I was grateful that he brought it to our attention, but also there's a piece of me that's like, dude, like,
don't
now everybody knows. Yeah, and well, and he was cool about it, right? Like he was like, "Hey, can I talk about this?" And at the end of the day, we've got an open source mindset, and so if you want to mod TetherGeist and if you want to take it apart and rebuild it into something, like we're totally cool with that community doing that kind of thing, as long as they're not trying to sell it or
Hmm.
trying to say it's their own work. Like if they say, "Hey, this is a modification of the game TetherGeist by Onco Games," like we're totally supportive of that. That's something that I think is really cool about Celeste. They've got a really good modding community too. But anyway, staying on topic, he ended up finding all of these Chapter 2 wireframes from like over a year ago. And he was able to kind of post this to our speedrunning community. And it was almost embarrassing just how bad all of these wireframes were because they weren't designed with playtesting. They weren't designed iteratively. All of the momentum in it was like super, super hard for no good reason. So there's definitely been a lot that we've had to like throw. I threw away all of those wireframes. Sadly, in the latest builds, you will not be able to find them because thanks to that guy, I was like, cool, time to clean up my files, time to only release in the game what I want people to see. Anyway, yeah, definitely have had a lot of ideas that we've thrown away. I mean, over 200 hours of work, I think, has had to be redone, and that's just kind of the way it is as you're learning. You're going to make mistakes, and we're kind of perfectionists on our team. So if it isn't perfect, we're okay with reworking it or completely throwing it away if we have to.
Yeah, if it's not the best version, then you want to get it done. You want to make sure that you represent your project and like your work the best way that
Yeah,
you can. Because some people that can be a make or break. Like with I don't know any AAA game in the past
even
4 or 5
indies.
years.
Yeah, players have strong opinions. So
Yeah, it's a cruel, cruel world out there. To be honest.
a little
Um,
bit. It's a good one too.
you've been kind of documenting your journey on YouTube with your devlogs. What was the inspiration behind that? Because not a lot of developers do. They just kind of publish their game, do no marketing or anything, but you're actively documenting what you're adding, what you're changing, where you want to be. Like, what drove you to that conclusion when you wanted to document?
There's a game called Vicious Legacy. I don't know if you've seen the YouTube channel for it. This dude released a devlog for the game is called Vicious Legacy. It's a random generated monster catching game. So I think he's blending kind of like Pokemon with this whole idea of open world and like procedurally generated stuff. And we saw that video and he had like 100,000 views. Or, yeah, he had 100,000 views on it. It was like a week old. He was a completely no-name YouTube channel, and he'd already had 10,000 subscribers within like the first week. And I remember we looked at that and we were like, if we could get 10% of that, that'd be amazing. So that was ironically, at least for me. Maybe Noah will tell you a different answer. He's probably done a lot more research on it. But for me, I was like, we could do that. We can make a devlog series and see what happens. The other thing that really inspired us to do it was over the past couple of years, we've been kind of twiddling our thumbs trying to figure out like how do we market our game for its release, because it's a little scary to invest tons of time into something and then have it go out and flop. Like we've already put comfortably 3 to 5,000 hours of work into this game. Maybe the math is wrong on that, but it's absurd. It's
Yeah.
like the amount of, and it's a little scary to think that you would launch a game without knowing if you have an audience at all. So the devlog series was something that we saw as a really good opportunity to market the game and to build an audience, as well as to kind of get like a pulse on whether or not there's true interest in it, or if it was just kind of a fluke that it did so well in GMTK. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of the inspiration behind doing the devlog. It's just let's try to build an audience, and it seems to do pretty well. Each video gets a good chunk of new subscribers, and people are happy to jump in,
Yeah.
even if it's like devlog 19 or whatever. Yeah,
Devlog 19, changing the lighting.
changing. It's funny you say that. Which video? There was a video I just put out about not changing the lighting until you've got the wireframes down. Anyway, and devlogs are hard. I've got an idea that maybe I can make a video on how to make a successful devlog, because it's hard to make it interesting sometimes.
Mm.
Yeah, changing the
Yeah.
lighting can only be interesting for so long.
But it's like a niche thing where
Yeah.
I mean, I think I once saw this video about this dude. I think he was making like a horror game out of chess or something like that, and it was like a devlog.
Is it Aramis,
I
maybe?
don't. I think I was watching someone reacting to him making it,
Okay.
which is
I might know who you're talking about. Anyway, go ahead.
some developers kind of don't show the back end of it.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know what I'm saying. I don't do devlogs. I watched like 10-minute devlog, and then a
Yeah.
couple of yours before starting this interview. I don't know
Oh,
where I'm
thanks.
going with this. So yeah, devlogs.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you something interesting about devlogs. Our viewer base is like you said, it's a very niche demographic. Most of our viewers, I ran a survey once on YouTube just to see like what percentage of you associate with the term game dev and how many of you are just gamers, like or not a developer really.
Hmm.
And 2/3 of our viewers say they are game developers, which is a lot. Like 66% of the people who watch our videos are making video games themselves, and it's very telling. Like devlogs are going to be that way. People are going to watch them to try to get inspiration for their own process. It's one of those markets that initially we were nervous, like we're not going to get enough just gamers. There's only so many people who make video games. How are we going to build the audience outside of that small piece of the pie to get so many more non-developers to watch and care about our game? And it's still a question and a concern for just about anybody who makes a devlog out there. They're like, how do I find an audience besides fellow developers? And I've seen the tone of the conversation starting to shift more and more as developers say, well, maybe it's not all that bad because fellow game devs are still players. They're still going to buy your game.
Hmm.
And it's still a decently large population anyway. So, especially if it's becoming more and more accessible. You don't necessarily need to be a programmer to make a video game. There's all sorts of tools out there, even code-free tools, where you can make a game of your own. Kind of this burgeoning, emerging market where we're becoming more and more comfortable with just developers talking to other developers because at the end of the day, they're still a player. They're still going to buy the game if it's what they want to do. Anyway, so yeah, devlogs are an interesting thing.
Like with speedrunning, I guess, and then people creating content about your game. That's marketing as well, which I guess it must be quite satisfying, kind of seeing someone just play your game. Like you've not like reached out to them or anything and been like, "Hey, play my game." They've just naturally
Right.
come across it through YouTube or even found your Discord, seen
Mhm.
everyone talking about this new game. It must be really satisfying to
It is.
see that kind of
Yeah.
play out, which is beautiful.
Gotten just a little teary-eyed sometimes, but only sometimes.
I think you was gonna say. Oh no, I think that's the end of my questions, Jordan.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah.
Before I go, do you have anything that you want to say to your fans who are watching this video?
Uh,
And I've kind of put you on the spot, so sorry.
yeah, I mean, maybe they're fans, maybe they're just people who are curious, like what's wrong with this person who's still working on this game? I don't know, but I'll take the term fans. I don't know. Anything else to say? Just thanks. One of the biggest driving factors, and I kind of touched on this before, one of the biggest driving factors behind our development is knowing that there is this large group of people that are excited about it and they keep up with our devlogs, and that's kind of this emotional support for us. It's like an audience cheering on a team where it helps a lot. So truly like a heartfelt thanks to everybody who's like keeping up with our progress and everybody who's excited about this game. I mean, it's definitely a passion project for us, and we're just grateful for even people watching, and we've seen so much support. So yeah, thank you. And thank you, Ben, for pulling together this interview and being willing to spend some of my lunch break, your evening
Yeah, I just
together,
finished work as you've got on your lunch break.
Yeah.
No, but honestly, I always have had an interest in understanding the back end of game development and not just playing it. And so it's fantastic that I'm getting to speak to yourself, Jordan, and I'm starting to speak to other game developers as well, and kind of understand the back end of it. It's very interesting, and I can't wait to
Yeah.
kind of keep going with it.
Yeah, I'm excited to keep up with all the interviews you conduct. I'm going to be watching them.
I'm going to be
So
spamming messages everywhere.
sometimes that's what you got to do, right?
No, yeah, once again, thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right.
And cut.
Cut.